McCoys Creek project is more than a stream restoration. There are critical infrastructure components. Okay, so most of the critical infrastructure, other than the neighborhoods themselves that are adjacent to the creek, really center along a handful of road crossings, and this would be King Street Bridge, the Stockton Bridge, both of which connect local neighborhoods and job centers to one another across McCoys Creek. There's also a CSX rail crossing across the creek within the project area, and the downstream part of this phase of construction is crossed by Interstate 95. And the project area is very close to I-10 as well, and a major rail district. A key piece of the project is McCoys Creek Boulevard, which is located within the mean annual floodplain, floods frequently, and will be removed during the restoration. The existing creek and its floodplain have some major issues. The first being is that the creek and its adjacent flood-prone areas are just too small to accommodate the urban runoff that they receive on a routine basis. And that's led to frequent flooding, making roads in the neighborhood unusable even after a 1-inch rainfall at times. And this becomes an attractive nuisance with people trying to drive on the roads, and then they actually drive off into the ditch. And so there's a hazard, a public hazard. The waters are also polluted with high nutrient levels, sometimes bacteria. The creek has a large litter and floatable burden, which some of those same stormwater systems have interceptors for that kind of debris as well. There's also some erosion issues. These tend to be very localized in this system. This project will address that. The project starts at Leland Street and in the upstream freshwater portion, and it progresses down valley toward the St. Johns River, and specifically to kind of the upper estuarine portion of the lower St. Johns River. So the first major restoration components of the project are to replace the existing straight ditch that we call McCoys Creek in that location, some deep stormwater ponds with meandering creek, naturally meandering creek, surrounded by a new excavated lower lying bottomland forested floodplain that we're going to create and revegetate along the creek banks. Currently, the creek is choked with vegetation and debris, which not only impedes flow, it prevents access to the creek itself. After the Leland Street Bridge, there are 2 additional bridges as we move further east. The first of which is the King Street Bridge. That bridge is being retained by the city based on traffic studies. It's an important crossing, but it also was, in its current condition, greatly restricts the flow of the Ditch to McCoys Creek system today. So the idea there is, and we have a design where the bridge is being elevated, and the opening through the bridge is being widened to accommodate the entirety of the new bottomland swamp and creek complex that we're designing for that part of the restoration. So what happens downstream of King Street is the longitudinal slope, the down valley slope, really flattens out. And so you lose a lot of the energy necessary to carve and maintain an open meandering channel. And so we have a lot of sites like this in Florida, and we call those gently flowing valleys strands or sloughs. Stockton Street is the second bridge that the city is commissioning design to elevate and to widen the opening to improve flow conveyance and to make it compatible with our proposed ecosystem restoration in McCoys Creek. So it's a very important conveyance. It's the main bridge crossing spanning McCoys Creek through the affected flood-prone neighborhoods. And it connects those neighborhoods into kind of a major job and commercial and industrial complex as well. up to a few hundred feet upstream of the CSX crossing, the rail crossing, the site transitions rather abruptly from a cypress strand into an emergent marsh. And that marsh is influenced by the tide in the upper St. John's estuary, and also will receive some exchanges of estuarine flow. Interestingly enough, the McCoys Creek, before it was obliterated from its natural state, actually had such a marsh and drowned creek, tidal creek configuration in it right up to about this point in the landscape. So we're really mimicking as close as we can in an urban setting a historical condition with that marsh type and that deep water meandering. So the upper tidal marsh and tidal creek are designed with fish and wildlife habitat very much in mind. We have a nice open meandering channel that's several feet deep, about 60 feet wide, coursing through the emergent marsh. The marsh is has a couple of deeper water, limited access nurseries for fish, young fishes to grow, and without heavy predation. And it also has some additional habitat heterogeneity useful to reptiles and amphibians in the form of some cabbage palm islands at higher elevation, higher grade within the marsh. This project is high profile. Not only will people see it daily from Interstate 95, it's high profile because it is part of the ambitious Emerald Trail network that the city is currently constructing. It will have overlooks, fishing piers, kayak launches, parks, exercise stations, and more. These are amenities that the community has told us they want. A McCoys Creek task force composed of residents, business owners, and other stakeholders has informed design throughout the project, and additional outreach includes Creek Fest, visioning meetings, and engagement with our partners at the city. It is a way not just to rejuvenate a community and retreat from flooding and pollution, but also a means to creating a usable, beautiful water body. It is not just a flood reduction. It would have been easy for the city of Jacksonville to commission just a bigger ditch lined by riprap and slap a trail next to it and call it done. But instead, the city is producing a much better flow conveyance, a much more natural flow conveyance, and one with that the people in the communities surrounding that new water body can look at with pride and enjoy the use of.